How you doing today, my friends? Welcome to part 4 of the Chris and Alec, Benson, Leary phone call series. We've been reacting to these for the past few days, and we have a couple, well, I shouldn't say couple, we have a whole lot more of these to react to. So we're going to jump right back into it, and where we left off, Chris was freaking out at Alec, saying, your characters are in no way related to my characters, and I don't like your characters like your Peter Chew and different ones like that. So, it's all over the place. And it's getting more and more hilarious, so I know y'all enjoy it. And all the previous parts will be in the description below, as well as the full call without my commentary. So, yeah, you just have that be known, and we're jumping right back into it.
Okay, I understand why you're angry, but didn't we already establish that the characters that I drew are not related to your chaotic combo? You in your fan, your mailbag, I've seen a lot of people have written to you about, the chaotic combo and other, Asperger similarities and things like that. And your response almost, always is Alec, Benson, Leary, and Asperger have no relation to you whatsoever. In
reference to the business, as in I actually never originally gave you or Mal permission to put the ads on the Wikipedia in the first place, especially in such large proportions where I had to scroll down to even edit the page or even to log in.
So right off the jump, Chris is complaining about the same things he was complaining about in the first part of the call, the same things that Alec has already brought up, that he has no means of changing, and that he just bought the ad space. He doesn't control where it goes or anything like that. But Chris still wants to levy this issue and act like, he should be able to change it and Alec shouldn't have done this. It's always no matter what Alec has to say, Chris always has a rebuttal of yeah, well, you shouldn't have been doing this too, so it's kind of even though at the same time Alec is just buying ad space and Chris is taking this guy's characters, that he's doing basically what Chris doesn't want this guy to do, Chris is doing to him, but Chris sees no issue in it. Basically, Chris is just being selfish and Chris is just being Chris.
And even I never even gave you permission to put the ads within the introductory box, which was a felony that Jack Thaddeus had violated before.
Yeah, that Jack guy, I know that's the name of the guy that Mao bought the ad space from. He told me that name, but as I understand the way ads work is, if a website posts, public ad space that can be purchased, for advertising, anybody can buy the rights to advertise. And
I get that.
Yeah, so how is it illegal that I purchased the ad space? And you've said it was illegal. You've said it was wrongful a number of times. I know you've used that word.
Yeah, because I was not in the loop about it.
Well, that's between you and your web manager, isn't it? You should be in the loop about it. I agree about that. You should be in the loop about it. But I can't be held responsible if you didn't get that information from your web manager.
So what Chris is trying to do here is blame Alec for all the things that he's mad about, all the things that he doesn't like with the website. And as I already brought up, Alec says it here too. He can't control that. This is what happens with the webmaster, and that's Jack Thaddeus, another one of Chris's trolls. And you can see though, anytime he gets pressed on any issue, he just lets out a nice mean stress sigh, and you can tell that he's just ready to sweep it under the rug and say, whatever. I didn't get what I want, so we'll just move on, because he doesn't give a fuck about what this guy wants. All that matters is what Chris is getting out of this, and he doesn't want things in his introductory box, like he said, which at some point there, I think in the beginning, he said is a felony. I don't know if I caught that right, but he definitely did say it was illegal, and I don't know. Chris's ideas about legality and all this, and then he tries to say it's just morally wrong. He has no idea what's legal and what's not. He just knows what he likes and what he doesn't, and what he doesn't like is the problem, and he needs to get all that shit gone.
All right, well, listen, the battery power on my phone is running low, so perhaps we could talk again another time. You take care.
I'd like to talk to you.
So that's the end of the first phone call, and you can see Chris is just scurrying to get off the phone because he doesn't know what else to say. He knows that he's just gonna get bitched at more, so he just wants to make an excuse and get the fuck off the phone. You'll see that many times over the course of the rest of these 9 phone calls, and yes, we just got done one of 9 phone calls. We still have a lot to look at here, and as soon as I'm done talking here, we'll jump right into the second one. But just know that, yeah, as these go on, Chris is gonna get progressively more fed up with Alec, because he just, he wants to talk business, but his business idea is that Alex should just sit here, listen, and do whatever Chris wants, and that should be the end of it. Business.
Hello?
Hi, is this Chris?
Yeah, this is Christian Chandler. May I help you?
Hey, Chris, this is Alec, Benson, Leary again. How are you?
Oh, I would have expected to call at 9:30, but anyway...
Oh, I actually did try to call at 9:30. It didn't get an answer, so I thought I'd try again. You're kind of a difficult man to get a hold of, Chris.
Yeah, I can
All
talk
right.
for a few minutes, so let's try
All
not
right.
to belabor this conversation.
Oh, not at all. I don't want to drag anything out.
God, he's such a little prick. Just the way he talks, like he acts like, everything Alec is bringing up is such an annoyance, when really all Chris has been doing is making demands and expecting them to be met. And so he says things like, let's not try to belabor this conversation. Chris has a little bit of time here to talk, because his time is valuable, You can hear a fucking TV in the background, so he's just sitting there on the couch, but, his time is valuable, ladies and gentlemen. He only has a little bit of time to talk about serious shit. But as you'll see here, once again, he's only going to want to talk about the stuff he wants to talk about, and Alex shit, he's just going to stress sigh whenever he brings it up. Chris isn't here to hear criticism. He's here to hear fucking what he wants to hear, and what he wants to hear is people kissing his ass. He wants to hear those smooches.
Well, first I'll ask you if you have anything specific you want to bring up, because I know you had to go kind of abruptly last time, and I thought maybe there was a point you didn't get to or anything.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to go ahead with that?
Well, first off, I have gone to Wikipedia recently. The ads are still supersized, but they are more of a mockery towards me now, and I do not appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Mao is kind of he's got a little bit of a temper. He's just kind of mad about this whole the mailbag situation. Emails getting deleted and all that sort of thing.
These are the first few times that the Asperpedia 4 is starting to fuck with Chris here. Mal's got the ads that make fun of Chris, which will be a constant going on here. And another thing that Alec brings up is that, Chris hasn't been answering all the questions from the mailbag. And this is something around the time that the people who fucked with Chris really couldn't stand. It was the fact that Chris would have a mailbag where you could answer send Chris questions and he would answer them. But he would never answer questions that were even the slightest bit critical about him. He'd throw them to the side and say, oh no, too critical, can't understand it. But he would always answer questions that were just praising him and, oh god, Rosechu's so awesome, this, that, the third. He would love that shit. So now Mal, who was Alec's boss and the guy who runs the ads and all that shit, he can't stand it. He can't stand that Chris does that. So now they're just fucking with Chris. And like I said, it'll be a constant here because these guys are going to really start getting under Chris's skin a lot more.
I saw in one of your mailbags that you said that I delete or modify a lot of my emails. I don't know where you got that impression. I don't do that. I try to answer every email I get, thoughtfully and fully.
Well, that's probably easy for you. It's probably easier for you because yours are not as mean and cruel and condescending as the ones I've been getting.
Have you been getting a lot of mean ones that don't go into the mailbag? Because the ones I see, a lot of them, they do get kind of critical at points, but I don't know, it seems like they just kind of want to, have some questions answered.
Yeah, but I wish they wouldn't have to go so critical.
Like, what do you mean? Like, what are some of the things that you found just kind of crossed the line?
like they talk about copyright issues and crap.
Well, that is kind of an important issue. I mean,
that.
So the cruel, condescending emails that Chris gets, all they are at the end of the day is just people asking legitimate questions about the copyright status of Sonichu and how it works and all that. But to Chris, anything, like I said, that's just not simple, kissing his ass style shit, that's just too much for his brain to wrap around, It's too much, he can't stand it, he looks at it as trolls, as too much criticism and all that shit. No matter what people say to him, as long as it's like, even if it's probably a simple question, he probably still can't answer it too right. And Alec brings up none of the questions Chris has gotten are really that bad. I do imagine, though, that he definitely got some really fucking mean ones that he's probably not even putting in the mailbag. But yeah, the ones he did put in there, I can't imagine were too bad.
I know. I noticed
I have my own copyright registration. That slip of paper I got from the Virginia Library of Congress.
God, he really is such a fucking child. He's trying to rub it basically in this guy's face. You can just see it. Like, yeah, I got it from the Virginia Library of Congress. Like, it's like a little kid showing off his new toy to the kids in the playground, acting like a big shot. But what Chris doesn't understand, and what Alec has already brought up, is that doesn't mean anything. Like, that doesn't mean the Virginia Library of Congress can tell Nintendo to hand over their copyrights. What Chris owns is the name Sonichu. Not Sonic, not Pikachu, not none of that shit. Chris just can, I think, call stuff the name Sonichu, and that would be it. But I don't even think he owns that, like, fully. So I don't know the ins and outs of this stuff, like, too well. But at the same time, Chris really doesn't own shit. But in his mind, he owns everything. So, yeah, but he can never, like, legally sell it and make money off it. We all know that.
Yeah, I noticed one of the copyright-related emails was someone asked if they could see, just some letter or some evidence that Sega and Nintendo gave you, permission to go with Sonic and Pikachu and that kind of stuff for Sonichu's origin story. I think if you provided those, that would silence those kind of emails right away.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have copyright of Sonichu, but you would still need to show Nintendo's permission to publish it. You know what I mean? Because you do make use of Pikachu in the origin story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that would be a good idea to show everyone in the mailbag. That would shut up that line of questioning right away.
Yeah.
See, it really does feel like picking on a little kid, because you can see it with Chris. Like, it's like a little kid who's like, yeah, my mom got me this cool toy at home, and then you're like, oh, we'll bring it outside and show everyone, and it's like, yeah, we'll see, we'll see, because Chris doesn't have nothing to show for it, but he's trying to act like he still has some shit to show for it. But you'll never guess where Chris is going with this next, Alec is bringing up, well, why don't you show this? Why don't you show that you have proof from Nintendo that you can use Sonic and Pikachu and shut all these people up? So Chris is going to be like, yeah, but actually, we need to talk about this, too.
But then there's also the homosexuals and other topics. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, there's quite a few.
Like the accusations that Rosechu was a boy, I think. That was kind of a big thing, wasn't it? People are going after that now.
I mean, yeah, definitely before the Rainbow Strike. I mean, the point where that Raichu, that female Raichu, is within the rainbow, that would be after the Rainbow strikes that Raichu. Mm. And with the power of the chaotic crystals,
well,
it would put the point. It would add the point to the end of that tale. Whereas in the two panels that preceded it, the tale was definitely dull on the end.
So here, Chris is trying to explain to Alec why Rosechu isn't a boy, which is so funny now considering that Chris has gone back in his own lore and made Rosechu trans. So, all this shit's real confusing when you go back and listen to it now, if you really look at what Chris made his book become. But at the same time, it's just, you're about to see the length Chris will go to not have to admit that he fucked up in his book and all that stuff, because it's so clear that it wasn't what he intended to draw, but he's gonna try to retcon everything.
Well, as far as I know, the original comic does have a pointy tail like a male has, and that's still on your website, isn't it? One thing I thought about was, actually those gender differences in the Pokemon, that didn't really, Nintendo didn't do that until well after you created Sonichu, right? So I just don't get why you didn't go with that. That would have been a good explanation, but instead you kind of lied to your fans.
What do you mean lie? I did not lie. You look at the two pictures before the rainbow hits, the tail is dull on the tip.
Oh, well, I see that in your picture that's on, the front of the Wikipedia, but the original comic, he had a pointy tail, or she.
The original comic, that's because, look, outside of the, that's just a line that went outside of the square. Whatever goes outside the square does not necessarily count.
It doesn't look like it goes outside of the panel here, but I mean, it's, I don't really know what to. I know that you don't. You probably should have corrected that mistake, but you left it in. I'm just trying to. I just kind of wish this thing had gotten nipped in the butt. It's kind of sucks that this is a huge point of contention right now.
Yeah.
So Alec tried to give Chris a real easy out here, because Chris in the old comic didn't draw Rosechu's tail a certain way, like a female. So Alec said, why don't you just tell people, well, the Pokemon didn't add that yet. That wasn't a thing when I drew this. So there's your out. But Chris just makes it that no, he redrew it. It was always like that. And even though it kind of looks different in this panel, well, that's drawn a little bit outside the panel, so it doesn't really count. So that's Chris's excuse for saying, his shitty drawing was outside of the panel, so it just doesn't count anymore, and that's that. He always wants to be right in these situations, and even when Alec is just you can tell, this isn't really that big of an issue, but Alec is just choking over his words so much because he's so confused as to why is this a big deal? Just you should have just easily retconned it this way, but you made it so difficult. But that's the thing with Chris. He always chooses to take the long route, the more difficult route. He does that in anything he always fucking does.
Oh, and also, another thing, I actually found a forum of my loyal fans, and I have just read some of their posts about the ads that have been placed on the Wikipedia, and they really don't like them either. So I'm not alone in that.
All right. Well, if they wanted to buy the ad space, that's. That I'm sure they could too. Again, the ads, I'm going to keep trying to talk to Mao, but it's really his area. Mao's kind of the boss of the ads. I'm just kind of the artistic genius, Mao does the business work.
Once again, Chris presses the issue of the ads to Alec, who has no control over where the ads go. He only pays for them. So, it's just so funny. Chris is his brain is so empty when it comes to this. He just wants what he wants, and it doesn't matter if this person can't get it for him. He's just gonna bitch to them enough to the point where he feels like he's done enough for it. And then he brings up that he found a forum where people are mad about the ads. It's either a bunch of trolls doing this just to fuck with him, or Chris is just making this up entirely. More than likely, he's just making this up because there was never really that many true and honest Sonichu fans. The ones that were acting true and honest were all fucking with Chris. So he's, like I said, he's probably just making this up to try to guilt trip Alec. He says, like, he's not having that. Chris is not having the fact that they don't like that. But then again, it's like Chris always acts like he's in a point of leverage where you cannot. But I mean, at the end of the day, he's not in a point of leverage. So you can, not have that all you want. It's not really Alec's problem because he can't move the ads in the first place.
Yeah, and I definitely do not appreciate that drawing of me in a diaper, and then just copying and pasting my signature to that. That's just wrong.
Well, I noticed that even after our last talk, you continued referring to Asperger as Mitch. I mean, I kind of thought we had that cleared away, that you knew he was Asperger. I mean, Asperger is my original creation.
Yeah, maybe so, but still.
And I think you still have the impression that Asperger is a Sonichu, and that's not true, right? Asperger is not a Sonichu.
Yeah.
Chris complains that there's a picture of him being drawn in a diaper with his own signature over it, proving that Chris drew that himself. But to Chris, that's just wrong. That's terrible. How dare you portray Chris in that light? But then he goes on to act like someone who would be sitting there in a diaper by continuing to call Asperger Mitch Sonichu because he just can't get over the fact that Asperger is not a Sonichu. It's Alec's own original creation. Sonichu is Chris's own original creation. But to Chris, he's the only one who can make original creation, Anything else like that is just parody. Even though Sonichu looks a lot like the Sonics, Asperger is just a parody of his Sonichu. But Sonichu, that's wholly original, baby.
Okay, but still think about this. You gave him the condition of Asperger's.
Yes, that's correct. Oh, that's another thing. I think you thought that I gave everyone that appeared in my comic Asperger's, but only Asperger has it. Just so you know, just Asperger.
Well,
I'm sorry, you were going to say something?
You can hear Chris give a disgusted little after Alec is talking about the fucking Aspergers and shit, because Chris hates that. It's just something that's been so well documented about Chris. He hates the Asperger shit. He feels like it's taking the limelight away from autism, and to him, Aspergers is not to be talked about. It deserves no respect. And just Alec talking about it and trying to explain it to Chris just does not want to hear it because it's just nonsense to him. It's not a big deal compared to his shit.
Anyway, still, I think you can understand, since you have Asperger's, and considerably with me with my autism, that we really don't want to be treated as quote unquote special because of our mental conditions. We want to be treated as equal individuals.
Well, that's certainly true. But how do you think I've been portraying Asperger as being treated?
Plus, try putting yourself in the shoes of your Asperger. Not only would you want to be treated as an individual equal, but
that's how I portray him. He does everything normal people do.
You would not want a name that emphasizes the mental condition. You want a name that is more manly.
So what Chris is going to try to do now is going to try to explain to Alec how Asperger is just, it's not a good name. How Chris has switched it to Mitch. He's going to try to explain why that's a better name because, as someone with Asperger's who Alec is, he should understand that, we want to be treated as normal. We don't want a name like Asperger that makes us remember our mental ailment. And then Chris goes on to say how, like, he wouldn't want a name like that. He'd want a more manly name, like fucking Sonichu. Like that's peak manliness right now. That's alpha names like Sonichu and Wild Sonichu and Punchy Sonichu and Blake Sonichu and Mitch and Bobby and all these other fucking names Chris suggested. He wants manly names, basically any name that's not a direct reference to Asperger's, because Chris can sense, he can sniff that out from a mile away. He doesn't, the Asperger joke doesn't go over Chris's head. He gets that it's a slight, but it's just the way he sees it as, well, that character wouldn't want that name, instead of just seeing it as, oh man, he's just making fun of my guys by saying they have Asperger's. Chris couldn't see it in that way. He can only see it in the sense of them making fun of an actual cartoon character, and he is not having that.
Well, Chris, we don't choose our names. I mean, our names are given to us. Asperger doesn't never chose his name. I mean, think of it this way. The name Asperger, if you think of that as a detriment, I don't, but if you interpret the comic that way, think of it as a personal, a sort of character flaw, if you will, that he has to work to overcome. And all good characters have character flaws.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's fiction. I mean, sometimes characters don't always live the happiest lives in fiction, but that's part of what makes good fiction.
Yeah.
See, Chris has never thought about Sonichu like that. He's never thought about anything he's written like, how am I going to make this a good story? He's only thought of it as, how cool can I make these characters look? What situations can I put them in that will resonate next to my real life? Like, let's make them get girlfriends like I always want to get, so they look cool because that's what I think looks cool. Chris just wants to make shit that looks like what he wants in life, and like that's really it. He's not worried about making a good story. He's worried about making characters that he's like, man, they're so fucking awesome and cool. That's why none of them ever have character flaws and they're always perfect, because it's people who Chris want to be around all the time. And also, all the Sonichus also worship Chris, so, people he always wants to be around all the time. The same people who kiss his ass and worship him. That's why he's so obsessed with, like, the Sonichu world and all that. Because what the Sonichus really are just a bunch of servants for Chris. They're servants based off of his favorite thing ever, which is fucking Sonic the Hedgehog. So everything to him is just one big fantasy world where he gets to live out all his dreams. And that's why Sonichu and all his comics have always been so important to him, because it's where he dives into when he's gonna get out of the real world. And now, even being in his jail cell, he's still obsessed with that shit in all of his jail letters. He'll never get over it, because it's the one place he can go that's his happy place, where everyone will just kiss his ass.
But still, with that, think about it. I mean, what if your parents had named you Asper? Because they were good, like as if like a foretell, you had Asperger. You would have Asperger's.
Well,
but you would not want that. But it was being treated, wanting to be treated as an equal in society. You would not want to be called Asper, because that emphasizes the mental condition you have.
Okay, Chris, that's part of the, again, the character flaw. Asperger has things weighing him down. He has, curses and not literal curses, but, he has detriments to his life that weigh him down as a character. And he has to work to overcome those. That's part of what makes a good character. I mean, you wouldn't make a character that's just, all powerful and perfect in every way and has no real problems ever, would you? That'd be kind of boring. Complex characters have problems that they overcome. Yeah. And it takes time to overcome a serious problem. I mean, you just renamed him Mitch. I mean, that wouldn't do it. You can't just go in and snap your fingers and just wave the problem away. And I mean, one, that's not realistic, and two, that doesn't make for good fiction. I mean, all the suspense and drama you're building up, your readers wouldn't really like that if you just kind of hand waved it away. Don't you think?
All right. Okay, but still.
Think about it like this. Superman is named Superman because he's super, right? And Superman is one of the most popular characters.
I mean, as an individual within his own world, outside of your control, Asperger would not want that name. He would be in agreement with me and probably want to change his name to something like Mitch.
See, he's literally incapable of having like a semi-intelligent conversation. As Alec sits here and tries to explain to him what makes good literature, what makes a very good, like a story, you know, like how you have to make complex characters, how you like characters have character flaws, things they need to overcome. The only thing Chris is trying to think of is, well, you know, if this was the real world, he'd be in agreement with me and want to be changing his name to something like Mitch. And once again, the way Chris sounds is just so fucking douchey. It's something that he constantly does. He tries to sound so much smarter than everyone else when just sounding like a fucking dickhead. And that's just the way Chris does things. And in this call, you know, that's the only way Chris is going to do things, is try to one-up Alec while never quite understanding what Alec's actually saying, because he's never really listening. He's just trying to get his own words out. And yeah, it's just how Chris does shit. And we're going to be continuing this call throughout the week, but I hope you guys enjoyed this part. You know where it's about to go here. Alec is about to start grilling Chris on why he thinks cartoon characters can come into the real world, why he thinks they have real feelings, and Chris is about to be offended like a motherfucker at that, because he thinks cartoon characters are real as shit. But, you know, that's for another day, and I hope you guys enjoyed it up to here, because we're going to be getting to that soon. So I want to give a shout out to Vanessa, Krabby, Your Mom, Liz Vendor, Worman Bjornson, Scaly Schisms, Echo Spectre, Cody Hale, the Ghostbusters fan, Sky, Mick Surly, Club Doom, Akiba's Beat fan, Music Biz Marty's Bong, Kaitan, Isaiah, Churlish, Fiendland's Party Place, and our good old friend the Night Owl. You guys are all goats, and everyone who made it this far in the video, you're a goat as well. I hope you enjoyed this video, and like I said, we got plenty more of these coming up throughout the next few days, so hope you guys enjoy them too. We also got some Cyrax content coming up, so I hope you all enjoy that as well, if that's what you're into. But guys, you know, it's the end of the week. I hope you guys have a great weekend. And before you know it, the next weekend will be here, and you'll just be relaxing then too. And then before you know it, the next weekend will be here. So just always have something to look forward to, my friends. So kick back, spark up another blunt. If you're already sparking one up for this video, spark up another one. Have some beers, have some drinks, have whatever you want. Just have a good day, my friends, and I'll catch you on the next one.